What are you watching?
It's Chiikawa.
Yeah, I see that. Why?
What's wrong with it?
Look at it. Look at it! This? This is made for children, dog. You're a grown man watching a show made for kids.
Well, technically speaking, I am the targeted demographic because Chiikawa's publishing label is labeled under Shinen. So yeah, I'm the right audience for this.
Besides that, this show is made for children. Like, literally children. Just look at it.
Well, actually, the manga and the anime, respectively, they have some serious lore.
This. This has lore.
Well, of course. Now, do you want me to explain? Or are you going to continue being rude, dismissive, and ignorant?
I didn't say yes, but I really want to hear about this lore, so please enlighten me.
Well, do you want to know how the food works?
I'm sorry, the what?
Now, even though the food seems infinite, it's not. The food spawns randomly. Even the quantity is randomized. However, the food does run dry. In chapters 476 to 487, the Chiikawas experienced a food drought. The food stopped spawning, so what happens? Well, you see, there's a certain rule in place. The Chiikawas have to be, sacrificed to the Chimeras.
I'm sorry, the what?
The Chimeras are the monsters of this world. They eat the Chiikawas. As horrible as that sounds, it's a necessary sacrifice. That way, the food, it just spawns back. That's why the Chimeras are rampant. But there's a theory about the Chimeras, how they came to be, and, who they are.
I'm sorry, there's lore to them?
From what I saw, the Chimeras don't just exist. You see, they are created. We first see this in chapter 22, where Chiikawa was chilling, minding their business, but they got ambushed by a Chimera who says, "I've turned into this." So there's a theory that the Chiikawas turn into the Chimeras. The cause is usually chalked up to stress and being cursed. That makes sense. We see this happen in chapter 25. Chiikawa sees Usagi turn into a Chimera, but this was just a dream. However, the process is still the same. In chapter 169, Chiikawa makes a friend named Anoko. Days go by, and Anoko stops coming in. Why? In chapter 226, we see the Chimera that Chiikawa, Usagi, and Hachiwari were hunting. That's Anoko. That's them. They've turned into a Chimera. Not just that, but in chapter, let's say, 74, I believe, Usagi buys a wand from a secondhand store, right? But this wand, it's cursed. It's a cursed item. The side effects, well, Hachiwari and Usagi, they turn into Chimeras. So, Chimeras are just Chiikawa that naturally turn, or if they just become cursed.
So you're telling me these creatures are unawakened demons?
Well, there is an actual demon named Momonga. You see, Momonga can never bond or get along with the other Chiikawas. They're loud, demanding, insulting, narcissistic, and egotistical. Do people wonder why? That's because the Momonga we see isn't real. That's not really them. Their actual name is Dekatsuyo.
Is that the Chimera you see sometimes?
Well, yes and no. The current Chimera we see is the actual Momonga, the real one. The current Momonga we see is Dekatsuyo.
Yeah. Why are they like that?
That's because Dekatsuyo is a body snatcher. They stole Momonga's body and they're using it to blend in. That's why we see them trying to blend in with the crowd, mimicking other Chiikawa actions, behaviors, emotions. They're not trying to play nice. They're trying to not get noticed.
What the?
That's why when we see Dekatsuyo chase Momonga through the woods, they're telling them to give it back. They're talking about their body.
Are there any other chimeras I need to know?
While it's not confirmed, it's been alluded to many times that Hachiwari might turn into a Chimera.
What the?
Alright, so it's a theory, so take it with a grain of salt, but there's been multiple occasions where we see Hachiwari in his Chimera form. It was first teased around, I want to say, episode or chapter 670, after Chiikawa managed to defeat the Dream Devil, or Nightmare Mammoth.
The what?
I'll get to that. Anyway, in chapter 843, Hachiwari gets stung by a bee and he's sent to an alternate dimension. Fast forward to chapter 851, and Hachiwari assimilates to this new world and turns into a chimera. He managed to stop the bee, but he's already changed. Now, if we were to assume that everything that happens in this world is parallel to the real world, then it's telling us at some point Hachiwari turns. Thankfully, Hachiwari is successful and he goes back to the real world. While there, Hachiwari tried to tell Chiikawa what would have happened if they turned into a chimera. But Hachiwari changes the subject. The last hint we got is around chapter 1069, where Hachiwari has a nightmare where he turns into a chimera trying to save Chiikawa, causing Chiikawa to fall to their demise. Now, I'm not saying that Hachiwari may turn into a chimera, but that's what it looks like. And that might eventually happen.
You've said over 500 different things. I wasn't paying attention to anything.
Also, Usagi might be God.
Of course you would say that.
Now, this fan theory is that Usagi might be a god or an angel. Well, they have super speed and strength and such. In chapter 1005, Usagi is cursed by an angel's halo. Their mood and demeanor and overall behavior improves. It's like this version of Usagi was sealed away and waited to be free. However, in chapter 1015, the curse is broken and Usagi is back to normal. But is this their true form, or is this all just a front? And another thing, I should mention, a Teru Bozu takes form of Usagi, and in chapter 1072, this version of Usagi goes back home to heaven. Now, is Usagi an angel sent from heaven? Personally, I don't see it. That Teru Bozu, okay, first off, that panel itself, it has a different colored background. The colored backgrounds, those aren't canon, so we shouldn't count those at all. And the halo thing, that was more of a curse than anything. There wasn't really an angel or such.
Can you please stop?
Now, it's time I talk about the monsters of this world, because they're not as simple as, fangs or just claws. They're devils with godlike powers. And I'm serious about that. Okay, so you got your basic chimeras, they're big, they're tall, they can fly, the usual. But they're always something different. Let's start with something that's simple to understand. The Nightmare Mammoth Chimera is just that, a dream devil. After Chiikawa encounters the mammoth in chapter, say, 655, I believe, they've been suffering from constant nightmares. The only way to stop them is if Chiikawa defeats the mammoth, or if the mammoth eats Chiikawa. As bad as that sounds, it gets worse. In chapter 419, Chiikawa buys a new alarm clock, but it turns out that this alarm clock housed a time-reversing black star, if that makes any sense.
Please just shut.
So up until chapter 453, Chiikawa was stuck in a time loop, and the only way for them to beat it was when the clock was soaked in OxyClean. So, you got your witches, your ghosts, your mimics. There was an episode where Usagi finds a cursed snake statue. The statue forces the Chiikawa to work in the mines, and the moment they try to leave, they're turned into marble. This happens to both Usagi and Hachiwari. Chiikawa was able to break this curse by destroying the statue. Now, it isn't a chimera, but it's still crazy to think.
I swear, if you don't shut up about Chiikawa.
And don't get me started on Yorori-sans, or as I like to call them sometimes, the guardsmen. And with the Yorori-sans that we see, it's hard to figure out what their end goal is. They seem to be providers of these Chiikawas. I mean, they give them food items, they offer jobs, among other things, but they don't seem to be there to protect them. In case of a chimera attack, they don't really help out at all. I often wonder why. I've seen theories that they're there for population control. I guess the Chiikawas can overpopulate. However, I think that their plan is to let them get attacked. As I said prior, Chiikawas must be sacrificed so the food can regenerate. Seeing Labor Yorori assign these jobs, it's hard to believe that he sent these Chiikawas to their deaths when they realize the food supply is low. At the same time, these Chiikawas can also turn to chimeras at will, so it's also a safety precaution. That's why Pochette Yorori was told he's getting too close to Chiikawa and their gang, because they all know they'll eventually turn into chimeras or they will be sacrificed. So,
Now look, Listen here. I'm gonna show you something. This is a gun. Alright. This is a mag. And this right here is a bullet. I'm going to put said bullet inside of the mag. I'm going to put the mag inside the gun. I'm going to cock it back. I'm going to load it. And I'm going to give you about 5 or so minutes to talk about Chiikawa, whatever, before I blow your head smooth off. So go ahead. You can continue. Go ahead.
What are you, Dan Smith now? Played Killer 7 once, drink your Dan Smith. You don't even have the right. Oh my god. You don't even have the right gun. I hate this guy sometimes. Can I at least talk about Mermaid Island?
Do as you wish.
So recently, Chiikawa had a movie release that covers the island arc, as I like to call it. Basically, all the Chiikawas get invited to this island for a vacation. Turns out it was more of a cry for help instead. The island Chiikawas are being attacked by a siren and their mermaids. But it's revealed that the siren is only doing this because one of their mermaid friends went missing. Here's the full story. You're gonna have to bear with it. It's a lot. Okay, so you have two islander Chiikawas, alright? You have Futaba and you have Hatoya. One day they were out fishing, minding their business. Suddenly the siren and the mermaids capsized their boat. Futaba was severely injured, okay? Itoya didn't want them to die, so they did some research and discovered that eating mermaid flesh grants immortality. So Hitoya lures one of the mermaids away from the group, attacks them, kills them, and then fed Futaba some of the mermaid. Now they're alive and immortal. However, Futaba forces Hitoya to eat the mermaid as well, so they both can be immortal. They run on a single AA battery. After this, they both vowed to never tell anyone. But Chiikawa, they figured out. They knew. But they didn't tell anyone either. Okay, personally, this pissed me off. Because, in retrospect, the siren did nothing wrong. They just want the islanders to expose the culprit, right? But Futaba and Hatoya, they let countless island Chiikawas get hurt, killed, just to protect their secret. This whole scenario could have been resolved if they stepped forward. Also, Chiikawa should have told everyone, considering that their friends were almost killed because these two wanted to keep their secrets. And that personally pissed me off because if I experience all of this and I realized the main reason I'm experiencing all of this was because two people wanted to keep their mouth shut about something they did, I would have told the world. That's just me, but still at the same time, it's just. Also, I want to say there was an episode where Hachimaru, Usagi, and Chiikawa they swapped bodies, and the only one who actually knew they swapped the bodies was Momonga. So if that wasn't telling enough, I don't know what is. Yeah, that's it. That's all I gotta say.
Well, do you have any last words?
You're not Dan Smith.
Bastard.